words don't lie. We fought for our freedom with guns by our side. Red, white, and blue, our southern pride. Raise the flag high, let freedom ring. From the rolling mountains to the flatlands, we sing. No one can take our rights. Our Second Amendment will defend our land. With every bullet we stand. We were born in the USA, land of the free, with guns in our hands. We'll forever be. Southern blood runs deep through our veins. We'll stand tall for America till the end of our days.
Well, good evening, all. I'm Sully, and as always, welcome to the Gun Club. You know, we've got a few things covered tonight, several legal issues that have popped up over the last week or so. And for the most part, it is really good news for the 2A side. Now, I know about 6 days ago, I came out and I defended Pamela Bondi, the newest Attorney General. A lot of people were giving me a little bit of grief, a little bit of pushback on it, and it was fair. And I expect that here. I'm cool with that 100%, not complaining about it at all. I want to hear what y'all think, definitely. My thought at the time definitely was that, hey, we've got this new coach or manager of our baseball team. And this new coach or manager of our team, kind of a funny guy, orange skin, weird comb over, and we kind of put a lot of faith in him. And we want him to take our team to victory. And while, Pamela Bondi, our new pitcher, or our new player, has had a couple of bad outings, I figured that he had vetted her a hell of a lot more and knew a hell of a lot more about her than we did. We got 162 games in a baseball season, so she's had a couple of rough outings. Let's see if she gets into it. Some people were saying, well, she's not ready for prime time. She's not ready for the majors yet. Well, again, he vetted her more than we did. I wanted to see how this played out in the long term. We had seen the executive order that came out in February about the 2A. We know where his thoughts are. Let's see if she can live up to it. Let's see how she works. The bottom line was, I wanted to give her a little grace. She had a really difficult situation going on. Number one, if we haven't seen it this last week, activist judges in the courts are fighting everything he does. Her team is going 18 directions at once. Let's face it, we just had an activist judge in California try to mandate that they bring back illegals who were violent gang members to the country because they hadn't gotten due process. They were in the country illegally, number one. You come over the border illegally, that's enough of a crime. Number two, several of them had committed violent felonies. They needed to go. But, well, we have to be careful about it. Really? I'm sorry, violent gang members are violent gang members. And I think the more pushback they get, the more you're going to see people getting pushed out. Number two, she's over 116,000 employees total in the Department of Justice. How many of those are working against her, do you think? We know that there are the inbred deep state. How many people are hanging her out to dry? She's one person. She's got 168 hours a week to do her best. Now, I will say that the Epstein stuff was a debacle. Okay, I'm not that upset about the Epstein stuff because, quite frankly, yes, it was a debacle. I'll give you that. But on the other side of that coin, I have a feeling that Epstein, he ain't hurting anyone tonight. Ghislaine Maxwell, she's not hurting anyone tonight. So, yes, we want transparency, but that will come with time. She's got a lot on her plate. I'd rather her focus on other things than that. We also know that she was a little bit late and is a little bit late with the 2A list he's got. Now, it's real easy to say, okay, undo all the executive orders over the past 4 years. Great. But how many laws, how many regulations through ATF, through different organizations, how many cases they're pending in various district courts, circuit courts at the federal level? Damn, she's got a lot to go through. Some of them she may well decide to drop. Some of them she may well decide that, yeah, I think I'm going to go through with this. The Rahimi case, for example. Now, I'm not a big fan of Rahimi. We all know he had his history. If you're not familiar with the Rahimi case, I think I made a video about it. If not, hit me up in the chat. I'll go over it real quickly. But okay, the Rahimi case, not a big one. The bump stock case, okay. Some of the other stuff. Yes, I understand. Yes, Mel. Why are they entitled to due process? They're here illegally. But oh, come on. You just use a really, really interesting oxymoron there. Jasmine Crockett thinks. Those three words sure shouldn't go together. Come on. We know Jasmine Crockett's a crackhead. She is an absolute train wreck of a human being. And, when you look at some of her holdings, so to speak, it's really interesting. I still want to know how, on a $175,000 a year salary, she's worth over $9 million and has multiple houses. Yeah. And is it any wonder why Houston, Texas is in the condition it's in? We can get into that later. In fact, that's a whole topic for tomorrow night's stream. But when we look at the big situation right now, Pam Bondi, if we give her a little bit of grace, a little bit of free range to get through some of this stuff, maybe she'll be able to do some good, and maybe she'll be able to actually do something positive. We know what his thought is. We know what the orange man is thinking. Let's hope she can live up to it. If she can, hey, great. On the other side of that coin, if she can't, fine, we can deal with that, and we can try to, get somebody else in at some point in the day. Beyond that, again, let's just sort of go through and do our best with what we've got right now. I think by giving her a little bit of grace, we may see some really surprising things out of her. Now, that was on the 16th. The 17th rolled around, and I saw something I really didn't like. A U.S. attorney in the Eastern District filed a brief that was really bad. But before we get into that, let's have a little humor. Just remember, if you're going to wear your Canada First hat, please try to make sure that you're not wearing a hoodie with it, because they might give you the wrong idea. Because, yeah, there's your new Canada First hat. Yep. Don't know if that's going to work out too well for the home team, but we'll see. Yeah. Maybe they're suggesting something. I'm not sure. So let's get into this one here. We had something come in on the 17th. Now, again, I defended her the night of the 16th. Well, on the day of the 17th, St. Patrick's Day, kind of took the Irish right out of me. The U.S. Eastern District of Louisiana attorney Michael Simpson filed a brief. Now, this was an appellate brief. And the original case was U.S. v. Peterson, and Mr. Peterson was originally convicted of having an unlicensed illegal suppressor. Okay. On the appeal, the government argued, as did Mr. Simpson, that the suppressor is not an arm. Suppressors are not arms, therefore, they're not covered under the Second Amendment. This was argued in the Fifth Circuit at the appeal. That was on 2/6 of 25. Well, there was a brief filed requesting an en banc review. Basically, instead of just a few judges from the Fifth Circuit, get the whole group together. Try to get a bigger sample set. Well, Simpson again filed this brief stating suppressors are not arms. Now, if you look under federal law, yeah, it says that it is an arm. As a matter of fact, 26 USC 5845, the term firearm includes, item number 7, any silencer or suppressor. This has been in place since 1934. So for Simpson to file this, first of all, flies straight in the fact of U.S. law. Number 2, it is kind of a bad look because It shows that they're taking aim at suppressors. Trying to take suppressors completely out of the Second Amendment is not a protected item. Yeah, we didn't like that. And Pam Bondi got grief over it. She got a lot of grief over it. There were a lot of channels on GunTube everywhere that came out. Mr. Guns and Gear came out. Langley Outdoors, Braden came out. Armed Attorneys out of Texas came out. Colin Noir came out. All the big ones came out. Whoa, that's bad. We didn't like that at all. This is the day after I had just offended this woman. Well, guess what? On the 20th, that same attorney, Michael Simpson, filed a request to delay the hearing in the above to allow the DOJ to reconsider their legal position that suppressors are not arms. The DOJ admitting that they might be wrong about something in the 2A? Now, what happened? It turns out that several people were reached out to and contacted. Apparently, all the videos that were made, all the content on Twitter, all the at Pam Bondi that went all over the place, someone heard or saw or did something. Someone realized, uh-oh, we messed up. Uh-oh, we need to relook at this. We need to reconsider this. I mean, let's face it, for an attorney, again, U.S. attorney, to sit and file a request to delay this for 30 days while we reconsider our legal position. Mel, you're in the chat tonight. How far is that, like, a little bit of a, change of pace? Now, I figured he didn't do this on his own. Somebody above him had to get to him. Who would he answer to? Chances are it came either directly or indirectly from someone in her office and said, whoa, this is not what we want to be doing. And so now they're reconsidering the position as far as the suppressors under 2A, which could be big for us. We all know that suppressors need to actually be taken off the NFA completely, and they need to be freely available with no special tax stamp, no special $200 fee, no special Form 1. They need to be readily available. The first step toward that is getting them at least to be considered arms, as in protected under the Second Amendment. And this looks like it might be the case to do that, especially if they're now reconsidering that position, which had been a really bad position. So there's 3-4 days after I had backed her up. I was like, damn, that got really good. Now, on the 20th, things kept on happening. Many years ago, there was a process put in place at the federal level for going through the Department of Justice for convicted felons to have their rights restored. It was primarily designed for nonviolent felons to have their rights, their 2A rights restored. Now, I know the left is going to say that this is giving guns to violent criminals and domestic abusers. And no. This is trying to let people who have been previously convicted of some type of felony, especially those in the nonviolent capacity, to get their rights back. Because maybe it was a stupid thing they did as an 18-year-old kid. Maybe it was something, again, a young lady takes a hit for some pills that are in a car that may not have even belonged to her, but her boyfriend was on probation. Yeah, I know someone who did that. So she lost her 2A rights as a result of it. When she was 35 years old, she could not purchase because they brought up a conviction from when she was 18 and a half for some pills in a car that she told me. She said they weren't even mine, they were my boyfriend's, but he was on probation. If he had gotten caught with them, it would have been prison time. He convinced me to say they were mine. And I kind of believe her. I know her pretty well, so yeah. So again, people who had made stupid mistakes as a kid, people who had done dumb stuff, had a chance to get their rights back. And there was a policy to go through the Department of Justice for it. Well, DOJ had delegated that over to the ATF. Made sense at the time. However, Congress, in a very sneaky way in their appropriations, had actually forbidden them from using any of their appropriated funds to process these applications. So, on paper, there's a process to go through. However, there's no one to process it and no one to pay to process it. So, okay, hypothetically, Martha Stewart, she's a convicted felon. If she wanted to get her rights to go hunting or go target shooting or even have a firearm for personal defense, she couldn't because she's a convicted felon. Yeah. Do we really think Martha Stewart poses a major threat to society? How about someone who's done some stupid insider trading stuff? Yeah, there was a chance for redemption. But Congress defunded it, and that way nobody could get their rights back. There was no one there to process it. Well, Pam Bondi saw this, and on March 12th, she wrote a directive and published it also on the 20th, because 20th was a big day. She published it in the Federal Register, and it basically came out and said that she is taking that power back from the ATF because they weren't exercising it properly, and she was going to put an office together through her office in the DOJ to handle and process these things and deal with it there. That's a big one for the 2A. Again, wow. Restoration of rights. Reconsidering silencers or suppressors. This is like the lady we want. I'm thinking, okay, I feel justified. I feel so vindicated. Here's the 20th. I defended her 4 nights ago, and I'm like, yeah, okay, great, cool. We get another win coming up later on. Because guess what? Also on the 20th, she appoints a new chief counsel for the ATF who replaces Pamela Hicks. You remember Pamela Hicks? She fired on like day 1. And when she fired Pamela Hicks, she was the chief attorney for the ATF. She got rid of her. Well, she brought in a new chief counsel who's going to be assistant director at the ATF. We know Cash is dealing with it right now, in addition to his duties with the DOJ. On the other side of that coin, we've got this new chief counsel at the ATF. Now, is this chief counsel a good guy or a bad guy? What do we think? Well, let's take a look and see what we think of this new guy. Is he worth a hoot? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull him up and see what we think of Mr. Robert Leder. Robert Leder is an associate professor at the Antonin Scalia Law School, George Mason University. His scholarly interests are criminal law, criminal procedure, and constitutional law, especially concerning questions about use of force and rule of law. He's written on the law of self-defense and the constitutional allocation of military power and gun control. Before joining the law school, Professor Leder was, wow, this guy's written a bunch of stuff about guns. I wonder what he's written about guns. I wonder if we can find anything here. Well, this is the gentleman who's coming in. And when you look at some of his writings, he basically is incredibly pro 2A. Just one of his articles is, and it came out in December of 2024, gun rights advocates would benefit more from ATF being reformed than eliminated altogether. That it's got a potential use, but it needs to be reformed, it needs to be fixed, not just done away with. Abolish the ATF doesn't change anything because the same rules and regs will fall into some other federal bureaucracy. But his article basically says it needs to be reformed, reorganized, and made to be a functional entity. This guy wants to fix the ATF, and he was just appointed as their number 2. Kash Patel's their number 1. Pam, honey, I'm starting to really feel good about backing your play here. Because you know what? I can look at his writing, I can look at his history, and here we have his webpage itself, and it's so interesting to look at because again, we're trying to get an idea of who this guy is and what he believes. Well, what does he believe? His personal blog is entitled Standing His Ground, a legal blog on self defense, gun control, and the Second Amendment. Talks about how rifles are constitutionally protected arms. Will gun free school zones undermine Bruin? Is the president capable of committing insurrection against the government he actually leads? The modern militia. Hmm. Should state officials receive qualified immunity for resisting Bruin? I gotta say something. I'm just looking at this man's articles, and yeah, I can only get so hard. So, that being said, you know, it just absolutely blows my mind. And again, here we go here. A response to Professor Cornell on the Second Amendment. Half a precedent is no precedent at all. Yeah, he goes on and on. I've read several of these articles. Not only is he obviously a brilliant individual, he's on our team. He's very much on our team. So we've got the director of the ATF, Cash, who spoke at GOA. We've got the assistant director, who's this gentleman, who's also their chief legal counsel. Yeah. Uh, I hate to say it, I know we can have all of our hits about Pam, and I know the Epstein files was a debacle of a mess of a debacle. I've heard several people come out and talk bad about it and everything else. And it just, it blows my mind because honestly, I wish it had worked out better. I wish it had been done better. I wish it was done more appropriately, but it wasn't. That being said, you know, what do? We can't, she can't fix what's already happened. The pitch that was thrown, like I said, we're going to use the baseball metaphors tonight. The pitch that was already thrown, she can't unthrow. Yes, the home run that got hit off her, it's already hit. And you know what? As a relief pitcher, you've got to go back out and you've got to play the next night. You've got to pitch the next inning. And maybe as she comes into herself a little bit more, we'll see a lot more. I think we need to give her some grace. I really do. I know that right now she is fighting an uphill battle in the courts because of the craziness, and I say craziness, of the left. The craziness of these activist judges. I mean, what judge ever thought he could turn around a military flight in midair? Speaking of that, come on. If we're going to have our laugh of the day, here we go. I saw this one come out the other day, and I thought it was kind of a good laugh, and it was sort of a chuckle at all these judges and their insanity because, yes, these judges have gone insane. We had a court order come down, and it said that, astronauts need to be returned to the space station because Elon did it, and Elon is bad. So we're actually going to have to fly them back up there or be in contempt. Yeah, that was from the B. I thought it was great. Yeah, we're not, going to be doing that no more. So, what else have we won on? There's three big ones right there. The suppressor reversal is huge, in my opinion. Absolutely huge. What else have we had? Well, if we think back under the Biden administration, or whoever was running the country, God only knows, guns were defined as a healthcare issue. Gun violence was a healthcare issue. Yeah. And by calling gun violence a healthcare issue, many states dipped into Medicare and Medicaid funds for anti gun activities. It was health and welfare prevention. Yeah. The Surgeon General under Biden, Vivek Murthy, in June of 2024, even put out a web page talking all about how gun violence was a healthcare issue and made a big gun violence web page and everything else. And we're using healthcare related funds in many blue states to go after firearms. Yeah, you're not allowed to use taxpayer funds to go after firearms. but by weaseling it around and backdooring it through and Bidenizing it, they were using guns as a healthcare issue, gun violence prevention. Well, in response to the executive order from February 7th, I believe, RFK Jr., the new HHS secretary, has taken all of that out of their website and has basically said, nope, not going to do it, not anymore, not going to happen, forget that crap. So that is HHS is now, again, I won't say pro 2A, but taking steps to protect our constitutional rights. So, again, that's another big win. And I think that's a big one because, you know, I hate using Medicare and Medicaid funds to take away people's rights. That's craziness. That doesn't work. So, overall, when I look at this week and the steps she's made to help people get their rights back, pulling that back into the DOJ, taking it away from the ATF, the change in tone from the Eastern District of Louisiana as far as Michael Simmons or Simpson having to change his stuff and reconsider their position on suppressors, appointing a very pro 2A chief counsel for the ATF, as opposed to Pamela Hicks, who was a nightmare. Watching RFK Jr. take down the web pages about gun violence prevention. Yeah. I think all of these are huge wins for us in the 2A space. And I think every one of them is something that we really need to be positive about and sort of have a little bit of a hip hip hooray or cheer or whatever, so we can sort of sit there and say, look, maybe we're doing something right here. Now, is it time to be complacent? Is it time to relax? Is it time to, you know, rest on our laurels? Hell no. It's actually, in my opinion, time to go out and do more. Let's introduce some of our, friends to the 2A movement. Let's introduce more people to the 2A movement. Let's go out there right now and capitalize on everything we've got. If we can, I'd love to see us even get more people, more firearms owners, more people who understand that, hey, firearms are not bad. Firearms in themselves are not dangerous. Firearms are not nasty. This is a really cool video I found in my search, and it's somebody who was anti-gun who got brought to the range by a friend. And let's see how this turned out.
The right to bear arms was something that was necessary at the time. It's just an antiquated thing, but I want to shoot one. What? Whoa! You can feel it throughout your whole body, and I'm not as scared as I was, but I'm scared of the shotgun, definitely. Oh, oh my God. Oh my God. I don't think I could do that. Oh, sorry. I mean, it's a rush. It's an adrenaline rush, and even though it's fucked up and I feel confused and conflicted about it all, I would probably come back and do it again. The right to bear arms was something that was...
Yeah, even though it's messed up, so to speak, she wants to come back and do it again. That was kind of fun. Now, that would be somebody who, a week ago, the right to keep and bear arms was antiquated. It was old. It was, an old antique law, like an old antique Sully. Now, I figure she's 1 or 2 trips to the range from deciding to buy one. Maybe 3 trips to the range. 3 more trips to the range. She'll go with one. From that standpoint, that is how we get people over to our side. So, yeah. Yes, I agree. The way she swung the shotgun did not make me feel warm and fuzzy. The one thing I'm hoping, and I didn't necessarily see, and I can look at the video again, we know after she fired it, she came back with the slide to eject the shell. I don't think she chambered another shell. That, ladies and gentlemen, is also why if you have brand new shooters at the range, you load 1 round, because that way, if they happen to do something stupid after that 1 round and they're so scatterbrained about it, they can't do any damage 1 round. The second time, we might load them 2 rounds. Yeah. Then we'll get them up to a full mag. But yeah, I think she managed to have just 1 round in it, but I'm not certain. Not 100% certain. So yeah. And yeah, definitely not the way to be swinging something around on the range. And that's also why, again, if you're there with a new person, you try to stay within arm's reach. Well, good evening, Mary. Nice of you to join us. I'm sure you'll enjoy hearing about some of our wins. I talked to Mary earlier and I told her I was going to be defending Pam Bondi tonight. And she's like, oh, again? I was like, yes, again. She's actually done a couple of good things. So, always fun. Let's see. I'm trying to find. This was one of my favorite clips also that came up. And this is Michael Cargill. If you're not familiar with him, he was the plaintiff in Cargill v. Garland, the bump stock case. And he had a really good one.
Did you know gun control laws are racist? Just so you know, Virginia was the first state to pass a law restricting the sale of firearms to Native Americans in 1619. The law stated that anyone who sold or gave guns, powder, or shot to Native Americans would be considered a traitor and hanged. In 1664, the Virginia Act prohibited free slaves, aka black people, from owning firearms. Also, in 1704, slave patrols began in South Carolina and continued in the southern states until the end of the Civil War. Don't forget, in 1712, South Carolina Act also restricted firearm ownership of free slaves, aka black people. And then, in 1870, Texas law prohibited carrying weapons in public. And let's speed forward a little bit. The Federal Firearms Act of 1938 restricted the sale and transfer of firearms and required gun manufacturers to obtain a license. And that is what fucked everyone. We have been fighting for gun rights ever since. As always, more guns equals less crime. Go ahead and buy yourself a gun.
Good evening, Colonel. I see you popped in. Always nice to see you rolling into the chat. Hope you're doing wonderful on this Saturday night. I actually came in, defended Pam Bondi a little bit. Again, we've had several big wins this week in the 2A space, and very, very happy about those. Had a few stories I wanted to cover in that, and of course, we're going to talk a little bit about the good guys and girls with a gun, because that's one of my favorite things to do, because, folks, it really does matter. Every time you can find something negative that went on with a gun, you can find 3, 4, 5 positive things that have happened with guns. Mary, I see you sharing. Thank you ever so much. Greatly appreciate that. And yeah, folks, please, if you'd be so kind, pump it out, share it out, spread it out, follow us, send it out as much as you can, because you know what? We're trying to support the channel as much as we can. And the more we share the content, the more we can do. We're trying to build both this channel and the other one simultaneously. So it kind of keeps up with, keeps me busy, so to speak. This first one is going to come out of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, a couple days ago. It is the city's first homicide of the year. And the shooting death of 64-year-old on January 10th was justified because the shooter was acting in self-defense. The first homicide of 2025 will not result in charges after the case determined the shooter was acting in self-defense. So-and-so, 64 years of age, was shot and killed during an altercation in the home. The man was attacking another man when a handgun he was carrying discharged struck the other man. The wounded man then returned fire with his handgun, causing the individual's death. The individual who shot him gave a complete statement to the PD outlining what had occurred. Because of prior convictions for third-degree murder and rape, The gentleman was not even supposed to be carrying a firearm. He was released on parole in 2019 after serving just over 35 years in prison. And yet he's out there carrying. Imagine that. Yeah. Let's see here. What's this? I didn't. Do you have a link? A link it to a what? I'm trying to see. Someone's Mel's asking for a link here. But so anyway, the county coroner's office referred to the death as a homicide, which means a caused by another person. However, it was determined to be justified after, it was examined. Folks, if this gentleman had not had, his own ability to protect himself, what happens? How does that go out? Yeah. Alrighty. See the video? Yes, I did see that video. If you'd like me, I can pull that one up. I thought it was really, really good. I've never seen a dissent on video before from an appellate judge. I kind of liked it. Gonna do this one here. This is Lake City, Florida, March 4th. A local MMA fighter was fatally shot by a resident after breaking into a home of a woman who had an active injunction against him. Active injunction against him. So, I don't know what the history is between the two, but she knew him enough that she had paperwork against him. And what do we know? Sad to say, a restraining order is a piece of paper. And this guy is an MMA fighter, so he's not like a little bitty guy, I'm guessing. Well, guess what? He breaks into her home, and with multiple adults and her children in the home, this 31-year-old got his birth certificate revoked. I'm not happy about that, but he made his bed. I'm glad that she and her kids are okay. I'm glad the other adults in the house are okay. It was after 11 o'clock at night. An adult fired multiple shots at the intruder when the man rushed toward them. And again, this is out of Florida. Victims of the home invasion said the man was known to them and was successful in breaking into the home. Multiple adults and children in the home said police. This is a tragic incident. Our thoughts are with everyone involved, said the PD. Based on our investigation, this may be a case of a resident acting in self-defense during a home invasion. Well, yeah. He kicked in a door, probably. Again, the detectives are going through. At this time, no charges against the homeowner for defending herself and her kids. Some of the reports indicate it was either an ex-wife or an ex-girlfriend that she had an injunction against. Yeah. So, let's see. I'll pull the video on the dissent. Let's see here. It's actually really good. I liked it. The judge did really well with it. Definitely a fan of him doing it that way. And honestly, the fun part out of California, of all places, imagine that. And this is the dissent video. The case is Duncan v. Bonta, and it's a magazine capacity case. And pretty much the issue came in. Yes, exactly. You said it right there, sir. You said a mouthful. And I've said this many, many times. The people who are writing gun laws and dealing with gun laws, if you had someone who had never driven a car, would you let them write transportation laws? Would you let them write DMV laws? No. They'd have no idea what they're talking about. This judge not only pretty much took his brethren on the bench to task, but he did so in a very thorough, professional way. And since you've mentioned it, why don't we just go ahead and we'll bring it up and see what we can do here. And again, this is the dissenting judge in Duncan v. Bonta. And before we get started, you will note the lovely AK up on the wall behind his bench. Yeah, exactly. Like I said, the people making and writing gun laws, they need to go to school. Yeah, I have like zero desire to be a Fed, but if you go back a few streams, I made the comment that one thing I would love to see is DJT get a bunch of individuals with some technical knowledge, whether it be Brandon, AK guy, or whether it would be Mike from Guns and Gear, or, well, Jerry Mikulik's retired now, but Jerry, get some of the people who know what they're talking about up there to sit down and go through and work with that. Let's see. Yeah. He actually mentioned that he was male at one point previously. I know that one night I said, "Sir, madam, I don't mean to assume your gender." So, but yeah. That's just the demons would let him write the operator's manual. Yeah. Okay. So now let's check out this judge and what he has to say about magazines.
Into my chambers. I'm making this video as part of my opinion in the Duncan v. Bonta case. In this case, the state of California made the argument, which the majority has now accepted, that a magazine holding more than 10 rounds is just an accessory, not an arm protected by the Second Amendment's right of the people to keep and bear arms. I think anyone with a basic familiarity with firearms could show you that this attempted distinction is simply inconsistent with reality. I alluded to this during oral argument when I asked California's counsel about the balance of the tests that it proposed for what qualifies as an arm protected by the Second Amendment. Let's go to that exchange now.
Magazine and
Can I ask
function
you a
as
question
intended.
about that? Because
Yeah,
in magazines, it seems like you could use the same sort of rationale as between a non-semi-automatic firearm, say a lever action or a bolt action or a revolver type action, and a semi-automatic firearm. So I'm trying to figure out if you're saying, well, what we do is we say, have people ever banned particularly dangerous rounds? And now we're saying large capacity magazines are particularly dangerous. Why couldn't that same reasoning be used to ban semi-automatic firearms altogether? To say, because I mean, think about it, like during the Revolutionary War, if the United States had semi-automatic firearms that only held 5 to 10 rounds, it'd have been about 10 minutes and it would have been over, right? As against muskets. So clearly the semi-automatic mechanism is way, 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 way more particularly dangerous than the difference, the delta between a 10-round magazine and a 15-round magazine. So why does your reasoning not mean that if this reasoning works, why does your reasoning not mean that a state could just ban the semi-automatic firearms altogether?
so if we're just
Now, what he's addressing in this point is they're saying that magazines over 10 rounds are dangerous and unusual. They're somehow making guns more dangerous just because they've got that 11th through whatever if round in them. That, 10 rounds is not a problem, but 11 or more, ooh, that's dangerous and unusual. They're also trying to go off removable magazines, meaning they want you to have magazines that you have to load the magazine while it's in the gun so you can't switch it out as easily. That's a lot of the stuff that they're going after in this case. So, here we go. Well, yeah, it's like stretching across the Grand Canyon. And, as anyone would say, if you've got some little bit of experience with a gun, you can do a mag drop pretty quickly.
start talking, Your Honor, about this initial sort of textual question, I think if you're dealing with a semi-automatic, that would fit the definition of an arm.
No, but that semi-automatic could be a revolver. Like it could be, I mean, just like this, that high capacity magazine could be a lower capacity magazine.
Right, Your Honor. So I think that would fit the definition of arm, and then you'd move on to the other aspects of the Bruin analysis. At stage one, is a particular weapon.
Okay. Real simply, the judge up in the top right corner, he is on our side. He's trying to show the stupidity of their argument that the 15-round magazine is dangerous and unusual, but a 10-round is not. So he's trying to say, well, if we're going to say anything that's dangerous and unusual as compared to a musket, even a revolver would be dangerous and unusual, be much more powerful than a musket. That's why he brought up during the Revolutionary War, if they had had 5-round magazines on ARs, that would have been so much more powerful than a musket. So could you not just say any semi-auto is dangerous and unusual? He's arguing very much, trying to show the stupidity of their opinion. That if they're going to say that this is arbitrarily dangerous and unusual, what else are they going to say is dangerous and unusual? Anything? Well, I mean, a 6-shooter, compared to what they had in the Revolutionary War, a 6-shooter would be dangerous and unusual. Well, I mean, I guess it would be if Alec Baldwin had it in his hand, but that's beside the point. We'll go on here.
And that's being addressed by the law in the tradition of dangerous and unusual? Is it in common use for self-defense? And we think Heller is clear that that has to consider the character as well as
I'm not
the
understanding
numbers.
I think I'm missing your response to it seems to me that just as you could say, are you saying that yes, so it would be an arm under, you're not conceding that it would be an arm under stage 1. So why are you saying it wouldn't be an arm, but the semi-automatic versus revolver, say, distinction is something that we're stuck with? I mean, you would agree that you can't ban the automatic mechanism.
Well, an automatic mechanism, I think that you can ban. I think the Supreme Court has recognized
No,
that
the automatic mechanism is a term that semi-autos and full autos use an automatic mechanism.
Sure, Your Honor. I'm sorry for the confusion. No, I don't think that we could ban all semi-automatic weapons. I think Heller makes that clear. The point I was just making is with respect to accessories, I think we have a difference of opinion where my friends suggest any accessory that is somehow helpful to armed self-defense.
That's important because your argument turns on whether you can characterize accessory. So you would say that the revolver versus semi-automatic is not an accessory, but that a magazine is this accessory. So what would you think about like a red dot sight, electro optics, which are
very true, sir.
Many firearms are going to electronic optics nowadays. They're obviously an accessory because you could have iron sights. Could you ban those?
Well, so Your Honor, I'm not intimately familiar with that. And I do want to answer this question and make sure that I save time for rebuttal. I think that the question...
And by the way, the judge is intimately familiar with that, and you'll see that later on in the video. The judge is obviously a gun guy, and I mean, that's why we're loving this rebuttal so much.
Question at the outset would be, is that, if it's an accessory, is it within the Teixeira principle that it's necessary to the realization of the right to self-defense? And you'd have to build a record and analyze it in that case.
So, counsel, you're saying...
Now, from this exchange, it became clear to me that many, including both California's counsel and my colleagues in the majority in this case, lack the basic familiarity with firearms to understand the inherent shortcomings and obvious inadmissibility of the test that California was proposing, and which the majority in this case has now adopted. I originally planned to explain all of this in writing, in my opinion, and why the argument doesn't make sense. But it occurred to me that in this instance, showing is much more effective than telling. As the old saying goes, a picture is sometimes...
Very true. Very true. And that became more and more evident watching some of the videos on this one. Yeah. And yeah. Your Honor, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just parroting what they told me because moms demand directions or moms demand action. I still say that is a porno flick waiting to happen. Someone needs to go out there and make a low-budget porno flick, Moms Demand Action. You can have a part 2, Moms Demand More Action. I don't know. But anyway.
It's worth 1,000 words. And here I hope you will agree that a video is at least worth that much. And I suppose at this point in the video is as good a time as any to apologize for any shortcomings of the video. This is the first video like this that I've ever made. And in our digital age, I fear that people have become accustomed to a production quality that I'm sure that I fall far short of. But I hope
and I will say, I know damn well if you're watching this channel, you are not used to production quality, so I won't worry too much about that.
Expect that regardless of any such flaws, this video will still powerfully serve the purpose for which I've made it. I also want to emphasize that for safety purposes, I have rendered inoperable all the guns and gun parts that I use to demonstrate today. And finally, as an appellate body, it's obviously not our role to make factual determinations, so I share this not to supplement the factual record that we're using to decide this case. Instead, I share this because a rudimentary understanding of how guns are made, sold, used, and commonly modified makes obvious why California's proposed test and the one my colleagues are adopting today simply does not work. I'm sure I could explain all of this in writing without being accused of improper fact-finding, but it's obviously much more effective to simply show you. So let's do that now.
I have to poop, but it feels stuck.
Stop!
Damn.
Are you trying
Whoops.
to kill us?
What?
Welcome back. To demonstrate, I'm going to start with this SIG P320 that's basically in its stock configuration. That is, this gun is basically in the same configuration it would come to you from the manufacturer and be sold to you at a retailer. This is one of the most popular handguns currently on the market in the United States. And so I'm going to use this to point out some of the essential parts of a handgun. These parts would exist on pretty much every handgun, at least.
How much crap do we think he got to bring all that into the courthouse or to his office? Or do you think he did this at home? I kind of wonder if he did this in the courthouse or not. Your Honor, having a bad day? Your Honor, is there something you need to tell us? Yeah. Oh, no, just doing a little video and starting my YouTube channel. Yes, that's right.
Of this semi-automatic type. So let me start by pointing out a few of them. This one comes with a standard 21 round magazine. Comes from factory just like that. You can buy a similar version that comes with a 17 round magazine that fits flush. And so it comes with a 21 or 17 round magazine. It has a standard full size grip. It has a factory trigger, which has a pull weight of about 7 pounds or so. Has front and rear iron sights that are used to aim the firearm. It has this little takedown lever, which is small, and you may have trouble seeing it, but we're going to talk about that some later. And that's what you use to remove the slide and disassemble the firearm. And the entire gun is designed around the automatic cycling mechanism. That is, when you pull the trigger and fire a round, right when that happens, it automatically will rack the slide back, eject the round, the spent cartridge out of the gun. It will grab a new round out of the magazine, put that round into the chamber, into the barrel, and it'll be ready to fire another round the next time you pull the trigger. So this is a semi-automatic firearm. Now, I want to use this handgun to illustrate first California and the majority's argument as applied to this obviously typical and very common handgun. And then I want to show you that the same argument would apply to other parts of the firearm and to this firearm as a whole. Now, as a reminder, California's argument, which the majority's adopted here, is that a magazine that holds more than 10 rounds is not an arm protected by the Second Amendment. So this 21 round magazine that comes from the factory or a 17 round magazine is not an arm protected by the Second Amendment. Now, California acknowledges that a magazine is necessary to make the firearm function, but they argue that because you can replace the standard magazine with one that holds fewer rounds, 10 rounds or less, then these higher capacity magazines are not an arm and thus wholly unprotected by the Second Amendment. Now, the problem with California's argument is that, as I pointed out in oral argument, the exact same argument would apply to essentially every part on this firearm, which would mean that essentially nothing on this firearm would be protected by the Second Amendment. Allow me to illustrate that using this firearm. Now, in oral argument, I asked California's counsel if their argument meant that the sights on this firearm are not protected by the Second Amendment. And part of the reason I'm making this video is because it didn't appear that counsel understood what I was asking. So take a look again at this.
He likely did not.
What you see on here are iron sights. You have a front and a rear iron sight. And the way that you fire this handgun, the way you aim it is you take and you line up these two sights and you line them up on what you want to shoot at. And that's how you hit what you're aiming at with this firearm. These are iron sights. They're probably the most common sighting system for a handgun. But all you have to do on this particular handgun to change out the sights is remove two screws in this slide right here, and the back sight comes off. And when you do that, you can put the two screws back into a red dot optic, and now you will have a firearm that instead of having iron sights would have a red dot optic. Let me illustrate that by just taking a slide where I've already installed the red dot optic. And here you go. See, so now you have this back sights back.
Yeah, the judge is swapping out slides, so he has an optic cut on this one. definitely a gun guy.
Iron sight's been taken off, and here's a red dot optic. Now, in the hands of an experienced shooter, this red dot optic allows you to shoot the firearm more quickly, to get on target more quickly, to hit what you're aiming at, be more accurate. And so it's obviously much more dangerous if it's being used for an unlawful or wrong purpose. But if it's being used for a lawful purpose, then it makes the firearm better for that intended purpose. So this firearm would be better for self-defense or competition, recreational shooting, or hunting. And indeed, my own self-defense handgun, which this is another P320 that's been configured slightly differently, has a red dot optic precisely because it makes the firearm better for.
So now he's got two 320s, assorted slides, optics, high cap mags. Yeah, he's a gun guy.
For its intended purpose, that is self-defense. It makes it more accurate more quickly and shoot more quickly. Now, so in that sense, this red dot optic is just like this magazine. It makes the firearm more dangerous when it's misused, but it also makes the firearm work better for its intended purpose when it's used properly.
Hey, check it out. This little bullet right here is worth as much as all of those bullets inside of that case. What do I mean by that? Well,
you may think that's pretty intuitive about the sighting system for a firearm, but the same thing is true about basically every part of this gun. Let's take a look at a part that's maybe a little less intuitive, which is that takedown lever that I talked about earlier. This little piece here, it's necessary for the operation of the firearm. It's a tiny little piece that you need to have for the firearm. And so you would think, well, since it's necessary,
this is a California court, this Ninth Circuit, I believe.
But not under California's logic in this case. See, you can replace this factory takedown lever with a different factory takedown lever. This one's called the gas pedal. And when you do that, you replace it, you put the slide back on. Now the firearm is a lot more controllable under recoil. You can, just like with the red dot sight, you can do faster follow-up shots. You can aim the gun more quickly, and you can control it better. So again, as with the red dot sight, as with the higher capacity magazine, this particular takedown lever makes the gun more dangerous when it's misused, but also makes the gun more effective for its intended purpose when it's used properly. So under California's logic, because this is an accessory, this little takedown lever, it could be replaced with a worse part. This little takedown lever is not protected. It's not part of the arm protected by the Second Amendment. Well, you might ask yourself, well, what about the grip? Like, you think this grip, certainly it must be part of the arm. I mean, it seems like that's a pretty key part of a firearm, is the grip of a pistol. Well, actually, under the majority's argument, it would not be protected. And the reason is, here's a bunch of grips that I've accumulated over the years.
Your Honor, your tote bag is clanking when you walk. Is there something you need to tell us?
I'm just going to pull a couple out here. This is a nice small grip, a nice small light grip. This is a big heavy grip. So what you can do on this firearm is you can remove the slide, remove that takedown lever, take what's called the fire control unit out of the firearm. This is actually the firearm under the ATF's definition. And you can take this fire control lever and you can put it inside this smaller grip. And you could use this grip for, say, self-defense purposes, because it's very concealable, it's light, it's easy to carry. And indeed, you'll see that's pretty much the type of grip that I have on my self-defense firearm. Or you could take this much heavier grip with aggressive stippling on it and with a flared mag well, and you could put this fire control unit in there, put the takedown lever on, and then you put the slide back on, and now you have a firearm that is much better at being able to take quick follow-up shots, hit what you're aiming at. And so this grip, all of these grips under the majority in California's logic, could be banned because if they were misused, they would make the firearm more dangerous, and you could put a different type of grip on if you wanted to. So you might ask yourself, well, what part of this pistol would be protected as an arm under the majority's logic? Well, I suppose California would eventually be forced to say, well, this part, the FCU, I guess, is the arm protected by by the Second Amendment. Every other part that you added, as I've just shown you, every other part that you added could easily be characterized, just like the magazine, as an accessory that you add to the firearm, and therefore could be banned under the Second Amendment. But not so fast. Even this part, the FCU, the core basic part of the firearm, could be banned under the majority's rationale. And the reason is, let me show you another FCU. This is the FCU for my competition gun. It has a really nice trigger, a nice light, crisp trigger, and has some parts replaced in here. It makes for a really nice trigger. You can upgrade the trigger to make it much nicer. And so because of that, under the majority's logic, you could even ban this FCU, or at least most of it, as simply an accessory, and now protected by the Second Amendment.
I'm done spending an obscene amount of money on takeout every week. Done.
I'm getting back on track with Factor. Fresh, never fresh.
Now, most of what I've shown you could, I suppose, be conceptualized as upgrades. You say, well, that's an upgraded trigger, and that's an upgraded takedown lever, and that's an upgraded grip. But the majority's logic works both ways. I've just shown you how you could easily improve the sights, how you could easily improve the takedown lever, you can improve the grip and the trigger, you could do the same thing with the barrel. But you could easily downgrade all of these factory parts of the handgun to make the firearm less accurate and slower. You could put in worse than factory trigger. You could require worse sights than what it comes with from the factory. You could require a grip be put on that hurts the speed and accuracy. Indeed, this type of downgrade is precisely what the majority is actually requiring in this case. As we mentioned earlier, this comes from the factory with a 21-round magazine, or it comes with a 17-round magazine in a slightly different configuration. But the majority is requiring that these factory standard parts be replaced with worse than factory parts, a 10-round magazine. So when we take everything off that the majority might call it accessory, what we're left with at best is this fire control unit. And as I've explained, even that could be dumbed down so that much of this fire control unit would be an accessory under California's argument. And of course, you can't shoot this, right? It's inoperable. You need all the other accessories that I've been describing in order to make this work as a firearm. But of course, also each of these other pieces, just like this magazine, could in some way be considered an accessory, since they could be replaced with a different part that would be less useful and make the gun less dangerous if misused. And that could be said for pretty much every single part of this handgun. And the same problem with the majority's argument applies to other aspects of the firearm that are less easily shown in the video, including fundamental aspects of how this firearm operates. At oral argument, I asked California's counsel why California couldn't ban the automatic cycling mechanism altogether under California's argument. And again, I don't think he understood what I was talking about. Well, this handgun uses that mechanism. This uses the automatic cycling mechanism. And this semi-automatic autoloading operation is the most popular mechanism that exists today and is used for self-defense. But other mechanisms exist for handguns, including probably most obviously the revolver mechanism. Here's a revolver. Think of the 6-shooter from the old Western movies, right? You can have a revolver which is not automatic, or you could have, and there's different types of revolvers. There's single shots, there's double actions. You could have the lever action, you could have a pump action, you could have a single shot break action, which only has one round. You have to open it up and manually take the round out and put another in. And under California's argument, because any of these single types of mechanisms are not essential to make this handgun work, and thus, or make a handgun work, and thus are not an arm under the Second Amendment, California could ban the whole semi-automatic mechanism altogether, thereby effectively banning semi-automatic handguns altogether, forcing everyone to use revolvers or single-shot handguns or worse. And of course, with bad sights, crazy heavy trigger pulls, a terrible grip, you get the point. Ultimately, California's argument, which the majority has unwisely adopted here, is based on the unstated assumption that there's some basic, I guess, unadorned, without any accessories firearm that would be protected as an arm under the text of the Second Amendment, but everything else is merely an unprotected accessory that's been added to that firearm that's unprotected. And I hope you can tell from this video that that idea is simply unrealistic. It could never be applied in real life. Like many of this court's ideas about the Second Amendment, it stems from a basic misunderstanding of how firearms work, combined with a highly unrealistic idea of how such a rule would be administered in real life. Ultimately, the only rule that makes sense and comports with reality and the text of the Constitution is that the entire handgun here, including the grip, this takedown lever, the slide and barrel, the sighting system, and this magazine are all part of the arm within the meaning of the Second Amendment. Thank you for watching.
Now, that whole argument, that whole discussion, very simply, the judge is trying to prove that the right to keep and bear arms includes all parts of the arm, and so therefore that the magazine limitation under the magazine cap of 10 rounds is unconstitutional. So that is definitely a big push and is definitely one that we need to fight back against, to push back against. And, from that standpoint, hey, it is what it is. Unfortunately, they did not win, but, we're going to hope that down the line they can do better. Again, it was Duncan v. Bonta. It's the dissent. I know Cardinal Nature threw it up in the chat earlier, and it was just, really nice. Georgia Gun Club, they have climate control, air filtration. Now, we actually have a really nice range we go to. I'm actually up to renew my membership there. It's an indoor range. It's about halfway between where she and I live, and we can shoot any handgun there I want, as well as my pistol caliber carbines. If we want to shoot long guns, we've got another indoor range that allows us to go full long gun up to, we've shot the 300s there, the 223s, 5.56s. So now ours are 50 yards at the one indoor and 25 at the other. But, well, I love the fact that he explained it out so well, and he really did a nice job with that. So, yeah, definitely appreciate you bringing that video up, because that was a great one to watch. And again, while we lost the case, let's keep hoping, because this was the Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit. Where does it go after this? Well, guess what? It's going to go to SCOTUS eventually. And I'm hoping that, we'd love to see SCOTUS get involved with that one, down the line. I don't know if they'd let us shoot a 50 cal at that indoor range. We had a really nice outdoor range that shut down after the storm came through. I don't know what happened to it. I know that there was a bunch of damage out there when the storm came through, and so from that standpoint, we had a really difficult time. He shut down after the storm due to damage, and he has since shut down altogether. They had some nice stuff. I enjoyed it for an outdoor range. We could do multiple target acquisitions, quick draw, pretty much do about anything we wanted to at that point. But yeah, I've never seen a judge do his dissent that way. And again, his video was definitely worth well over 1,000 words. I loved it. I thought it was really well done. But again, just to recap, we had several wins this week. And so again, while Pam has still not followed through 100% with that executive order, she's taking steps. She's doing stuff. And she's got, several big things. And now she's actually got her chief counsel named and appointed for the ATF. So she's got a little bit more help in. We think about it. Up till now, Cash had barely been sworn in. Dan just joined like a week or so ago. Yeah. Let's see here. We can look at doing something like that. I don't know. We'll see what my EMS schedule looks like. I work a rotating cycle with EMS in my full-time world, so But yeah, we could definitely look at going down. And yeah, it's that one where we went with the ARs and did that filming out there. They shut down right after the storm. Well, he publicly shut down right after the storm. I went by there, and there's now a for sale sign at the place. I don't know. I'm hoping the guy who was running it's okay, that he didn't pass away or something. We're kind of wondering. But getting back to Pam, you know, she's had a rough start. And I'm not going to say that she didn't screw up a couple things. And the Epstein thing, that's a whole video unto itself. But she's appointed a chief counsel who's great. She's taken steps to fix things that are great. She's got her subordinate in Louisiana sort of reined back in a big way, quite frankly. And so from that standpoint, you know, big changes, and they're big positive changes. And so when I sit there and I look at all of those big positive changes, I'm kind of like, okay, I get that she messed up on a few things, but on the other side of the coin, you know, she's done a lot of good things. So from that standpoint, maybe we can actually do some good here. Maybe we can actually deal with something that is, positive in the long run. Because again, let's look at the end of the season for that major league team we're talking about. We got 162 games. Let's say we've got a 4-year season, or really it's a 2-year season. If she can go through and come out at the end of this season with 21 wins and 2 losses, that's Cy Young Award numbers. So I can definitely deal with that, and I'll support her through that. So I see what you're saying, Mel, and no thank you. Not right now, that's definitely for sure. Let's see here. I wanted to pull one up here just to sort of celebrate Pam a little bit for all the positive stuff that she did manage to put through this last few weeks, because she did, again, manage to do quite a few good things. So, we'll give her a little bit of credit here. Let's see. Professional backhand to the rogue FBI, where is this? FPC had a big win, challenging the 18 to 20-year-old ban, so they're still working on that. A big win on that one. And let's see, I'm trying to think. I thought I had one other to pull up here. Sometimes when I bookmark things, they jump into a different order from where they were. I do want to announce that Jerry Michaluk has announced that he was going to retire. His daughter, Lena Michaluk, is going to be taking over his channel and all of his content and doing all of his stuff. If you are not familiar with Jerry, he is basically one of the old original gun tubers and actually competition shooter, one of the great gun guys on high from forever. And, he's definitely sort of having to sit back and, he's enjoying his retirement. And I know you all have seen Lena Michaluk on the channel because she's the one I use to pick on Tim Walls to give him some quick shotgun training. Now, when we talk about the pure stupidity of firearms or the anti-gun groups, this is from Assemblywoman Patricia Eddington, Democrat from Nevada. And as we know, some of the Democrats don't understand too much about guns. She actually said this: some of these bullets, as you saw, have an incendiary device on the tip of it, which is a heat-seeking device. So you don't shoot deer with a bullet that size. If you do, you could cook it at the same time. Let the stupid sink in. Some of these bullets, as you saw, have an incendiary device on the tip, which is a heat-seeking device. So you don't shoot a deer with a bullet that size. If you do, you could cook it at the same time. Okay. Now, I'm going to break this down. If it is, okay, some of these bullets you saw have an incendiary device, meaning something that burns or creates burning. Now, tracer rounds, okay, I'll go with that. But if it's something that burns or an incendiary or something like that, that's not a heat-seeking device. So just that sentence right there, it's either incendiary or it's heat-seeking. And I don't think she knows what that word means. These are people writing laws. This is why, organizations like GOA, NAGR, SAF, this is SAF who put this out. Yeah, she's been watching way too much. Yeah. Yeah, what the? Yeah, I agree, Mel. I agree. But this is, again, what is out there. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, this is actually out there. Let's see here. Let me pull that up in a second. I'm trying to find one other one here. Let's see. Let's see. This is a really interesting take on edged weapons. I'll share this one. It's a good one.
The truth is that kitchen knives are perhaps 25% of the knives used in most of the terrible crimes. That's one of the stats in the films. And those kitchen knives are usually a domestic situation. Okay. So kitchen knives, of course, it's very difficult. They're domestic knife. I do think there is areas of innovation that we can do with kitchen knives. I hate to say it, not all kitchen knives need to have a point on them. That sounds like a crazy thing to say, but actually it would reduce. You can still cut your food without the point on the knife, which is an innovative way to sort of look at it. And in a country in crisis, I'm sorry, but yeah, let's look at that. But the truth is, all knives, the loophole on the heritage knives allows the sale of ninja swords to be sold. So while, you've got your granddad's sword on there and you want that, that's fine, of course, but it is leaving a loophole for someone to carry a ninja sword. So let's ban them all. And if you have.
This is Bonkers Britain, folks. Yes. They want to go ahead and take the tips off kitchen knives. It's a new British brand called Just the Tip, which, you can wonder how well that's going to work out. But 25% of the assaults, kitchen knives. So they're taking away all the guns and the violence is still happening. So now we're going to dull your kitchen knives. Pretty soon you're going to be sitting there with a McDonald's spork. Fire broke out at Walt Disney. I had not heard that one. I'm sorry. I just wanted to, yes. Padded rooms, no sharp edges. Agreed. And, no sharp edges and no heat because, well, they're snowflakes and they'll melt. But they're all brainwashed. The general verbiage out there, everybody wants safety. We want safety. Okay. So the question is, what are you willing to trade to get safety? Well, once you trade one thing to get safety and you don't get it, then something else to get safety and you don't get it, they trade a third thing for safety. Let's face it. In 1934, they traded automatic weapons and short-barreled rifles, short-barreled shotguns, and suppressors because they were going to have safety. That was going to fix it. This is gun control 100 years ago, or close to 100 years ago. We were going to get safety out of all that. Hasn't worked 90 years later. So what have they done? More and more and more and more laws, more and more and more infringements. Let me take a little bit more of your rights away and we'll get safety. Let me take a little bit more away for safety. Yep, I agree. We traded our privacy for security and safety after 9/11. Yes, we need to have like pointless plastic scissors because you know what? That in my desk would be clearly a deadly weapon. And then again, if they take away all my knives, I can pretty much promise you that that would be a deadly weapon. I mean, I guess I could choose which point I wanted to use, but, I keep this handy in my desk drawer. So, yeah, this would be a deadly weapon. What's that? Oh, pencils? Yeah. Guess we can't have these anymore, metal barrel pens, because I guarantee you can do that. Yeah. Okay, ban ropes. Yeah. Cut a man's hands off. I agree. And quite frankly, if a man knows what to do with his thumbs, that's pretty much a fait accompli. So, yeah. Yes, the wielder is the issue. And it has always been the issue. And I could have mean. Yep. Ghana didn't ban rocks, exactly. Mel, your knitting needles, those are deadly weapons. So, yeah, definitely be problematic on that point. So, yeah, we're going through here, and I was looking for one in particular, but couldn't find it. But that's all right. Even crochet needles could probably be, something there. You could use your latch hook, hooks, Not to mention, well, there you go, carnal nature sharp sticks. I guess what? Do we ban hammers? We all have to have floppy hammers now? Because I promise you, there are probably more murders with hammers than there are with ARs in this country. Yeah. So I guess, that would be a big problem. What else? Let's see here. Oh, yeah. Now I'm going to show this one. This one I've had sitting around for a while, and I meant to do it a while back. And yes, we know this young lady has already been relieved of her job. She's no longer there, but we're going to have to pick on somebody a little bit. Yep, true. Very true. This young lady is trying to relieve a concealed carry holder of his firearm. This is a traffic stop. He has advised them that he is carrying. He's a lawful concealed carry holder. And this officer is going to relieve him of his firearm. And let's watch how this goes down.
I appreciate it, man, being very honest.
Oh, yeah, all right.
Oh, shit.
You okay?
Hey. I appreciate it, man, being very honest.
Oh, yeah, all right.
Oh, shit. You okay? Hey. Put the gun down. Put it down.
You note her fellow officers are telling her to put the damn gun down. Yeah. Yeah, her fellow officers are like, honey, put the gun down, please.
You okay? Get up. Listen, where's your pistol at on my side. Okay. Just put your hands on the top of the vehicle for me. I appreciate that being very honest. Oh, you're all right. Oh, shit. You okay?
That's one of those things that I have been in that situation with law enforcement before. I've been the one stopped, and I've told them what I've got and where it is. And with the exception of one officer in my entire life, they've all said, make you a deal. You don't pull yours out, I won't pull mine out. But, it's not a let. It really is not a let. At that point, just depending on the situation, yeah. Yes, Mel. The gun went off. The legal concealed carry holder was shot by the cop with his own gun. It depends on what state it's in, really. I don't know what Georgia's laws on it are.
We're gonna run your license, make sure everything's good. I'm gonna send you on your way. This one? Yeah, just hang tight. Just do me a favor, lower that window. Hey, he's very compliant. He does have a pistol on him, so we're gonna take him out from that side, remove the pistol, and we'll go from there. All right? Get out? Yeah. Yeah, you're good. I appreciate it, man, being very honest.
And this is where she is trying to remove his gun. And keep your booger hook off the bang switch. Really simple. It's one of those first 4 rules we teach you.
Oh, shit. You okay? Hey. Put the gun down. Put it down.
Yeah, even her coworkers are like, just put it down, please. And yeah, she's gone, she's fired. Yeah, it's been dealt with. But absolutely crazy. Yeah, and again, it depends. I don't know the specific situation. I agree, it just depends on the legals in the state. Again, not knowing Georgia's legals. South Carolina, we used to have a duty to inform. They got rid of that totally. So we don't even have to tell them we're carrying anymore, which is nice. And they've also stated that the fact that we're carrying is no longer an issue, for stupid stuff. So always nice.
You okay? You got shot in the leg.
Yeah, okay. We've gone through enough of the body cam on that because they've got all the different officers. Yeah, that one was sent to me by Mr. Scott Awesome. Unfortunately, he's not here to join us tonight. He sent us that over, and that was definitely a big win. Yep, we went constitutional about 1.5 years ago on that one. So, but again, for whatever reason, and I've had a situation where I actually had to get a weapon off of an officer because of a situation. And the thing is, as long as you follow those 4 rules, especially that big one about, yeah, it doesn't typically go off. So yeah, definitely a good idea. But yeah, she's gone, so that's good. Yes, I will agree. There you go. And the thing is, I will say this, and I'm not throwing rocks at cops. I'm not, but to a police officer, many of them, and I won't say many, but some of them, there's a good percentage, that it is just one more tool of their job that they carry on their belt. It's a thing they have to carry. They are not gun guys and gals. They are not particularly proficient with it. I have had a law enforcement officer ask me, could I clear something? He knew that, I was like the gun guy, and we were dealing with a scene, and as we moved something, we found something under it, and it was something that was cocked. And the cop's like, "Oh shit." And I'm like, "Do you want me to get it and clear it?" And he goes, "Can you?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Okay." I agree. They're proficient with their tools. Most they qualify every year, once a year. Some of them may go to the range 3 times a year. Quite frankly, I know Mel goes to the range more than the cops do. And she's not a police officer. Just saying. Yeah. Let's see. Trying to see here if I can find what I was looking for. Yeah, oh well. Let's put it this way. This was not too long ago. The ATF, trying to break down a gun. Now, the gentleman here with the dark hair, this was the director of the ATF, old Stephen Diedelbach. And here we are here with the ATF demonstrating firearms. Let's see what you think.
So that's the frame. Is going to make a new gun for you. But basically what they do is they make this part here.
This is like plastic.
So this is the plastic piece. With about 20 minutes of work, they could make it into a working firearm, and then they could buy the aftermarket parts and simply attach that on.
And to buy those parts, is there any serial number and tracing of?
Now, you don't have to,
pieces?
if you're selling firearms parts alone, right, then.
But you watch him over here on the right-hand side trying to work with this. It's like he and that Glock have never been introduced before.
And it's not a frame or receiver.
Parts are not regulated.
And they're not regulated. Under the law, we're not allowed to do that.
You would like to do that?
That's up to Congress to determine. But
He's still
what
trying.
we did is we tried to work with the law that Congress gave us.
He's still trying.
And take the receiver,
Here, give it
the
someone on
frame.
camera.
This is a frame. A frame is on a pistol, receiver's on a long gun. We take the frame and say, hey, Congress said we can regulate the frame, right? And so people that are readily, convertible to being firearms like this, like you said, 20 minutes. This is like the thing that even I could do, right? So made sure that this has to have a serial number on it from now on, right? So that's what we're trying to do.
And some of the argument right now, like in California.
But yeah, that's literally the ATF technicals people sitting there like they had never been introduced to those Glocks. And it was hilarious because we watched it. Everyone watched it. So, yeah. Not a lot of work there. So, alrighty. Oh, I know. And see, we can't carry on any healthcare facility in the state or any place that healthcare procedures are performed in the state. And county policy, I can't carry on county property unless I'm a sworn law enforcement officer. So, yeah. So, kind of interesting. And the funny thing is, I've actually had deputies on scene hand me things because they know I can't carry on the truck. And they're like, yeah, here, you want this? Yeah. Oh, I agree. It doesn't make any sense. Brother, you are preaching to the choir on that one. Yeah. But yeah, that is where we sit. So, alrighty. Trying to have I had a really cool, happy pill for tonight, but can't find it, so oh well. We'll have to save it for the next one. But, they tried to. They tried to, Mel. You know, gun violence prevention was healthcare, and they were using Medicare, Medicaid funds in some states to do gun violence prevention. And that has since been put a screeching halt to by RFK. So, gotta love it. Yeah, we actually had a very nice weekend down here. Alrighty. Well, folks, I appreciate it. I hope you all had a wonderful night. Hope you have a great weekend. Mel, I may well see you tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow night, likely on the other channel, because I've got a pile of content banked up for them, because it's just been, again, going through with the fire hose these days. So I think I'll leave you with Lena McAluck here, being the chair's retiring. Well, let's Lena show you how it's done with a shotgun. It's a little bit better than Timmy Walls.